guys, Graham here with the Quarantine Quiet Time. Thanks for tuning in again. Today we're going to be in the Old Testament in the book of 1 Samuel. And you might notice in the Old Testament when you go looking for that there's 1 Samuel, there's 2 Samuel, there's 1 Kings, there's 2 Kings, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles. And all 6 of those books are just a ton of history. Chronicles, you would kind of find out, is kind of a repeat of some of the other books, but 1st and 2nd Samuel and 1st and 2nd Kings is a lot of great like Israelite history. So if you're ever curious about like where a lot of these stories come from, that's where most of them come from. So I think it's a great book to read in the Bible. 1st Samuel's a great one to start with. And in it, there's all these stories about David and specifically how he became king. There was a king already named Saul, and David was kind of working his way up the ranks, and Saul could see that and was trying all these different tactics to get rid of David so that he wouldn't become a threat to the throne. And in the end, Saul just kind of went crazy and tried to kill him, and then really just made it his life's mission to kill David. And there's a point in the story when David and his men are hiding in these caves, and Saul is searching for him, and doesn't realize he's actually in these caves. He stops, and it says that he goes up into the cave to use the bathroom. And while he's in there, David and his men are hiding. And there's this awesome opportunity for David to get rid of Saul and call it a day. So we're going to pick that up. That's in 1 Samuel chapter 24. And I'm going to start from verse 4. And it says, "The men said, 'This is the day the Lord spoke of when he said to you, I will give your enemy into your hands for you to deal with as you wish.' Then David crept up unnoticed and cut off a corner of Saul's robe." It says, "Afterward, David was conscience-stricken for having cut off the corner of his robe. He said to his men, 'The Lord forbid that I should do such a thing to my master, the Lord's anointed, or lift my hand against him, for he is the anointed of the Lord.'" So you got, and all these guys who are rolling with David are so frustrated that he doesn't take the opportunity to kill Saul. And David is like, forget about killing him. Like, I feel bad that I even ruined his shirt. And it reminds me of times when we are put in situations where other people want us to do something, or they are going to participate in something that we don't agree with, or that kind of rubs our consciousness, our morals the wrong way. And living as a Christian, that happens. And if that doesn't happen, then you're either completely surrounded by like Christians who just do the right thing all the time, or maybe your moral compass doesn't point true north quite yet. And that's okay. I think that's also part of a relationship with Jesus, is learning how to adjust your compass. But David gets into this situation where all the guys around him say, hey, you should kill him. This is the day. They actually say, this is the day that God has given us. Like, you're going to kill him and we're all going to be free and we don't have to run anymore and you're going to be the king and yada yada. And David says no. And he's the leader, so it was pretty easy for him to say no. But to say that all those guys weren't mad at him would absolutely be a lie. But here's the question, is how did David know that it wasn't right to kill the king? I mean, how did he know? The king was going to kill him if he had the opportunity. David was supposed to be the king. And how did he know? Why did he not take this opportunity? And what I read in there is that, hey, it rubs up against something else that God had already told David. David knew that, because it wasn't like, oh, I shouldn't murder, right? He was a warrior. He had no problem with that. But he had a problem with doing something against God's anointed. That's what he said. He just feels bad that he even cut off a corner of his robe because he was God's anointed. And back then, the leader of the Israelites was very close to God. That's how they would view that this person would be chosen or anointed by God, that they had a special blessing on them. And that's how they became the leader. Especially Saul, and how Saul was chosen. And David said, hey, I know this to be true, that Saul was chosen by God. And I know I shouldn't do anything against God. Well, God chose this guy, so if I were to do something to him, that would be me going against him. And even though there wasn't like a commandment that said, David, thou shalt not kill Saul ever, like that didn't happen. And as I said, David didn't have a problem killing people, but he knew that this went against something. And so when we're in situations where our moral compass is kind of being pushed, and we say, hey, this goes against something inside of me, this goes against something I have been taught or something I believe to be true, we have to have the courage to say, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to participate in this because this would be going against God. Whether it's a commandment he specifically gives in the Bible, or whether it's a lesson we have learned, or something, a lesson we've learned through a story, we say, hey, I can't do this. I can't specifically go against something I know to be true, because that would be going against God. So that's our thought for the day. Hope you guys have a great one, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.